We're 4 days into Matt Patricia training camp, and we're starting to get a sense of what his practices look like. You've heard players talk about the increased intensity and pace of his practices, but there's a difference in the structure as well. We've seen him work goal line drills at the beginning of non-padded practices and then live tackling work at the end of padded practices when players are already worn out. He says there's a very specific reason why he orders things this way.
I always feel it's just good to get into the goal line situations offensively and defensively, because there are a lot of situation stuff that come up there in formation identification and different possibilities. In such a critical situation of the game, you got to perform at a high level. So you really need to build that sort of awareness and intelligence here through the course of the next 4 weeks. So you start at day one, mixing a couple plays, a couple more plays the next day, and just get those guys feeling comfortable. What happens is as the ball gets closer towards the goal line, from a defensive perspective, the anxiety goes up, the just nervousness and obviously wanting to compete to not let them score. From an offensive standpoint, your adrenaline goes up and you're trying to look for matches and mismatches and try to find some advantages in the defense, but everything happens so fast down there because of the shorter space that in that situation, you have to execute at a high level. So you want to start at day one, and it's a good opportunity to do it without pads. I know that kind of sounds backwards, but that way you can really concentrate on the cerebral part of it, and then when you get pads on, then you can really push into the physical part. A lot of times in practice, I'm trying to wear them out, and I'll put some of the more difficult periods at the end of practice where they are probably the most fatigued or tired mentally especially, and you try to see how many mistakes they make in that situation, because obviously in the critical parts of the game, and as the game goes, when we get to that sort of phase where by the time we get to the fourth quarter, that's where you're really gaining control of the game, the points are more important, the yardage is more important, time of possession, everything increases from a critical standpoint, and you try to simulate that in practice. So by the end of the practice, the fourth quarter, we have to perform at the highest level. So you really want to make sure you have some team periods mixed in there that are that sort of intense, situational, fundamental period that has to be executed at a high level. So we're definitely trying to evaluate those at the end.
Patricia gave us an update on LeGarrette Blount, who left practice yesterday. He said he just had to go in and be checked by trainers, and he was back out at practice today. The Lions have tomorrow off from the field before heading back to practice on Wednesday. We'll keep you updated on the Lions website. For DetroitLions.com, I'm Tori Petry.